Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking phases of our cycle. So when I say cycle, I mean our menstrual cycle or our moon cycle, and how by knowing these phases and recognizing where we are in our cycle in our body can really help us alleviate stress and make the most out of our energy, and also support our body in the different times of that month to allow ourselves to function, optimally and be healthy. So this is all about being happy and healthy by being aligned with ourselves as women. So this is also really great. Syncing with our cycle not only alleviates stress, and I'll sort of explain why as we go through, but it also means that we're much more easily recognizing when something isn't right. So something is off. So if we're syncing with our cycle and we're supporting our cycle, then when something is different, we're more readily able to recognize it and sort of readdress that imbalance. Or in other areas of our life, our cycle going off and not being sort of normal monthly flow can also highlight those things. So gut health and mental health and also just all sorts of other things. Our cycle is a really great indication of that. So by knowing it, we're empowering ourselves to be healthier and happier. So I refer and use this book for this. This was the book that I read years ago when I really wanted to start to heal my menstrual irregularities. And many of you will be coming to this video because you're having shorter cycles or missing cycles or, heavier bleeds or problems with cramping. And this book is In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti is absolutely amazing. And she talks about like recipes and foods and exercise, all that support each phase of our cycle, and how to recognize that in our body and how to get in sync with it to basically allow a life to align with our purpose and all the things we want our life to be, all our dreams. Because as we're living as modern women, we are not doing this. Predominantly, maybe you are, and that's fabulous if you are, but we're living in a man's world, and by this I mean that we're on the go all the time. So men are predominantly circadian. That means they have the same every day, so they wake up with that peak of testosterone. We all know the wonderful symptom of that, and then that's declining throughout the day, so they're like starting with a peak of performance, sort of tailing off. And that's standard every day, pretty much. They can also have fluctuations. But as women, we're not like that at all. We have a circadian rhythm, but we also have this amazing monthly rhythm. And by being the same every day, we're actually shortchanging ourselves because we have a lot of benefits locked in this magical flow of cycle of hormones that we can use to help make ourselves happier, to help support our overall health, to help us stress less, basically to get the most out of everything we do. So by resting at the right times, we then can be creative at the correct times. So we're going to talk through those phases and how those relate to jobs and relationships and exercise. So in the book, she actually also mentions food. I'm not going to go into this today because it's super detailed and it would take way more than one video. But I'm just going to show you. She's got this. I don't know whether you can see that. I'll take a picture of it and put it in the video. But she's got this whole table of certain things to eat to support our cycle and where we are in our cycle. So seed cycling is also another way to do this, and this is something that I do a little bit more simply than that, but obviously going deeper into it can be really, really supportive. But if you're wanting to get started, then seed cycling is a great way. And seed cycling actually cuts your cycle into half. So from the beginning of your cycle, so when you're just after your bleed until you ovulate, you use sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. And then once you've ovulated until you bleed, you use pumpkin seeds and linseeds. And that's a tablespoon of each a day. And I won't go into why, but these seeds each help with the production and metabolism of estrogen and progesterone in different variations. So they're really a great way to sort of get back in sync with your cycle. So I will say, If you're someone watching this and you, like me, don't have a regular cycle, a great thing to do is to recognise where you are, where you might be in that cycle, and start to emulate it by using this method, this cycle syncing method that she talks about. So you're emulating it by, you know, following the sort of behavioural activities and the exercise and maybe the foods, and therefore sort of helping your body find that rhythm again. So for so many of us, we don't have, I'm actually just going to move back a little bit because I've got the beautiful sun coming in. But for many of us, we don't have that rhythm, that cycle, because we've been maybe taking the pill, or we've got heavily stressed. Like, many things can cause this, our toxic world. But by sort of starting that cycle off again and having a consistent rhythm gives our body that opportunity to flow with it. And obviously you keep tuning in and see what your body wants to do. Tuning in being the key in all of this, tuning in. So, you know, everything I say here, obviously tune into your own body and check what is truthful with you, like where you are. Maybe the cycles take a little bit longer, maybe each phase is a little bit longer. That's all fine. It's all about tuning in. But by emulating that, we give our bodies a chance to get back to that cyclical nature, because basically we've just like suppressed this. Society suppresses this. Like, you have to be the same every day. You must be showing up to work the same. You must show up to the world all the same every day. Go, go, go. We're always in productive, efficient mode. And that does not work for women. We are not made like that. We are absolutely the opposite of that. We are cyclical. We are intuitive. We're meant to be slower. We're meant to be more interested in nurturing and feeling into what's going on and how everybody is. And that's our magic, yeah? Our feeling things more, you know, being different each day of the month. That's our magic. And if we can know this and we can tune into it, we're happy, healthy, stress-free, just, you know, really living as a woman. So yeah, finding that flow is really important. So another way to do this, if you're not getting a cycle, before we get going, is to follow the moon. So like kind of typical moon cycle, following the moon. So don't forget, in the past, we would have lived in tribe with other women quite closely, and that would have we would have impacted each other. And so we would have bled together almost always. And I've actually experienced this being on a retreat for 5 weeks with 26 other women, that loads of us, I hadn't had a cycle for 3 or 4 months, and I got my period alongside a lot of the other women there. Absolutely incredible. So women being together is really, really important. But the moon is also important. So we would have lived together in tribe, but we would have been outside more. So blue light is absolutely smashing our ability to resonate with the moon and the planets, like nature's cycles. So another thing you can do, which is fabulous, and this is how I started getting my cycle back, was I flowed with the moon. So when I'd had my period, I followed on from there. I recognised when that was, and I followed that. So a sort of, a standard cycle, I don't even know why it's called the standard, but the sort of regular cycle with the moon would be that of the mother. And that is bleeding with the new moon and ovulating with the full moon. So bleeding with the new moon and ovulating with the full moon. So what's really interesting is, if you're not wanting to become a mother, you're not in that energy, you've chosen not to, or whatever the reason, you'll often find that you're bleeding with the full moon and ovulating with the new moon. Now, for years, whenever I did get my period sporadically, that was how I would flow. And what's really interesting is, as I've watched myself come closer and closer to being pregnant myself, like we're on a fertility journey, I've noticed that when I do bleed, it's nearer and nearer to the new moon. So I've shifted from full moon to now being a few days, 5 or 6 days before the new moon. So how amazing is that? And the vital key here is, if we want to sync with our cycle and with nature, which is the way back home for us as women, getting and looking at the moon is so important. So your pineal and pituitary glands not only pick up the sunlight, but they also pick up the moonlight. So having less blue light, I was going to come to this at the end, but we're on the topic now. Having less blue light is really important. so less screens, especially at night, and less blue light above you. So think putting candle lights on and salt lamps and things. But also getting out in the sunlight in the morning, and it's at sunset, and then having the moon light in your eyes is probably one of the best things you can do for your cycle and your womb as a woman. So thank you for listening to that. Let's get on to phases of our cycle. So wherever we are on our cycle, we're not starting with menstrual phase, because that is actually the end of our cycle. So wherever you are on that, I'm just going to start from actually what is the beginning of our cycle. And often our day 0 is termed the first day of your bleed, right? But that was actually created by Western medicine to be able to pinpoint where a woman was in her cycle, because there wasn't, any other obvious markers for where she might be. So I get it, that's much easier. However, for the terms of like us understanding our cycle, I like to think of day 1 as actually the beginning of the follicular phase, and I'll explain why. So our follicular phase is about 7 to 10 days long, and this is when your period ends, this begins. And so it's a new cycle, a new start. Your brain is telling your FSH, your follicle stimulating hormone, to be produced by your ovaries. So your ovaries are not by your ovaries, received by your ovaries. So from your brain, your ovaries receive FSH and get your follicles starting to mature, or more importantly, one follicle. So your follicle is maturing, FSH is rising, LH is rising, estrogen, testosterone are on the rise. And this is a real time of starting. So for behavioural and like work-based stuff, this is a great time to start a project. Think about your intentions, your plans, get really clear on what you want. Thinking about creativity, dreaming big. This is like, the opening of the petals. So in terms of exercise, this is like doing a dance class, like learning something, like learning a routine, learning something new, getting outside and cycling. Energy is on the rise. So you're starting to like move about, go cycling, do a dance class, cardio, lots of fun. So fun stuff. So it's important to note here that if you're imbalanced in your cycle, like me, it's vital that you keep your workouts to 30 minutes or less. And actually, even if you're emulating this cycle, if you're really out of balance and you're just sort of creating a cycle to follow to help your body, still keep the workouts to a minimum. So we're talking about not stressful workouts, because any sort of exercise, hard exercise, is creating stress response in your body and increasing cortisol. And that is a lot of the problem with menstrual imbalances, hormonal imbalances. So just keep those exercising, like please do still move, but not going over that 30 minutes, and thinking about, taking it a little bit easier. For a lot of us, including me, I was working out hard every day all month because I was on the pill. So I was basically like a man. I just had flatline hormones and I just went and worked out hard every day. So I never ever listened to this cycle because there wasn't one. I was overriding it by taking the pill. And so that definitely has had a detrimental effect on me. So it looked great at the time because I could work out and stay slim and be really fit, but it's definitely had a long-standing impact on my hormones and my body. So I'm having a sun problem here, so I'm just going to move back a little bit more. I'll be sat on my altar in a minute. So second phase, ovulatory. So this is 3 to 4 days. And this is 3 to 4 days, but there is an actual peak in the middle of this. So estrogen is at its peak and it peaks, LH peaks, which is luteinizing hormone. And that's like this surge of FSH, LH, testosterone, estrogen, rising right to its peak, is making your body create an ovulation. The egg is released from the follicle. So this is a real opening up phase. So if you think about follicular as preparing, this is like opening up, like I'm ready, like socializing. Think intense working out, like, power walking and HIIT training and boot camp and kickboxing, loads of energy. You're probably feeling really sexy at this time of the month. This can be a real turned on time for most people. And it's kind of obvious our biology is trying to get us pregnant. You know, it's the time when you know that you're receptive to that. And really tuning into this can be great for relationships too. You know, tell your partner, talk about it. It's really, even if you're not planning a family and you're using like family planning method or you know, contraception, this can be a really good thing to know when you're going to feel like that. And, you know, yeah, it's just really good to talk about these things and be open with it. So in terms of work, we're talking about plans, having important conversations, you know, hosting your parties, doing big meetings, all those social things. That's a really good time for that. So the third phase is our luteal phase. This is about 10 to 14 days long. And this is like, this phase has the energy of like working, like getting down to it and ending things. So as the luteal phase goes on, we're coming towards menstruation. And this is about sort of finishing things off, getting things done. So this is like organising, admin, but also time to do inner work. So if you're having counselling or you're doing therapies or practices, this is a real good time to start to go inward, start to really like look at things, start to nurture yourself. And as the phase goes on, starting to wind down. So exercise wise, think like Pilates, yoga, you know, gentle weights, starting to really like flow and have focus and sort of structure. So yoga and Pilates, like that kind of, you know, following the poses and really trying to listen to your body. They're really beautiful practices at this time of the month. And in terms of your body, it's your egg has left the follicle, you've ovulated, and your body is preparing for pregnancy. So progesterone is now the dominant hormone rising, and this is produced predominantly by your corpus luteum, hence the luteal phase. The corpus luteum is what, interestingly, now I said I wasn't going to get too technical, but I'm doing it a little bit because this fascinates me. So your follicle, your eggs are all in a follicle, like a sac, and as the egg leaves, this turns into a corpus luteum. And this is the thing that's going to like help increase the womb lining, get that like structure there ready for fertilization. So a really like special and important time of the month. And obviously leading on to our fourth phase, which is menstruation. So all those hormones start to dip. Your body recognizes you haven't got pregnant during the luteal phase. Progesterone, estrogen, everything's on the fall, and then your body sheds its lining. It realizes it's not pregnant. Time to shed, time to let go. So you might have gathered this is a great time for letting go and resting. So you're shedding, you're releasing. This is a really good time for going inward. So this is a phase of about 3 to 7 days, which all women know, but being kind with yourself is really important here. Be at home, journaling, reflecting on the things that have gone well this month, the things that you want to change, your accomplishments, and really going inward. So I talked earlier about like traditionally what women would have done. And in this phase, we would have been in the red tent. So you might have heard that phrase banded about, but it's where women would have gone in the village, and specifically like the shaman women or priestesses that were leading tribes and leading civilizations and groups of people. They would have gone into a red tent, and this would have been their time to be intuitive and listen to guidance from, higher sources to really know what decisions need to be made. And I don't know about you, but on my period, I feel grounded. I feel slow in a good way. I feel in tune with my body. I feel like I can really listen. And I think that the modern world encourages us to just push through anyway. Have you ever done that awful thing where you try and go to the gym or exercise on your period? Or we all know that disgusting feeling where you're like, your limbs don't feel like they want to work and you feel a bit off. It's because your body doesn't want that. Like, we're supposed to be resting at this time. So in terms of exercise, think like yin yoga and gentle walking, but predominantly rest. So in this time in the past, we would have been in the red tent, we would have been magical. This would have been an incredible time for us to really listen and feel like empowered as a woman. And I feel like it's become this like totally opposite thing now, where it's like you've got to hide it and it's kind of annoying and it just gets in the way and you feel bloated and crappy and you just want it to finish. But I think the problem is that a lot of those symptoms that we associate with our bleed aren't actually normal. Like pain and cramps are not normal. I'm going to say that again. Pain and cramps on your period are not normal. That is a sign that you're imbalanced in some way, and normally with your liver. But what's great about cycle syncing is that you can recognize these things, because if you're in sync with your cycle and you're resting during your period, it just has this great positive feedback loop. The more we rest and the more we sync with our cycle and the more we find the different phases and act in this certain way that supports our body, then it means that we then are less stressed, and stress affects our cycle. So can you see how it can be a negative feedback loop? We don't listen to our cycle, we override it, we go to the gym when we're bleeding, we keep going, we don't have any me time. Then your cycle gets all off, you get more stressed, and then that stress again has another negative impact on your cycle. So before you know it, you've got PCOS, you're getting heavy cramps, you've got PMDD, you've got POI like me, all these things. We're having irregular bleeds. And these things are all signs that our cycle is off. We're not in sync with it and it's not healthy and we're not healthy. So things like acne, cramps, PMS, horrific mood swings, ridiculously heavy bleeding or very short bleeding. Also, you can look up things where you can see the health of the blood. So your blood when you bleed, so your menstrual phase is an amazing way to see the health of your cycle and yourself, because your blood thickness and colour is an amazing indication of how healthy you are. So, that kind of like clotting or really watery bleed or really brown bleed, all of those things are not healthy. And so they're an indication that we need to readdress ourselves, come to ourselves, and maybe look at things that are sending us off. So I mentioned food at the beginning and how Alyssa Vitti in the book talks about food. You can find this stuff elsewhere as well. But I think that one of the things that our menstrual phase, this last phase, can indicate is, as I said, those things that are not healthy and are not normal and have been normalised are a great way to see where we're maybe out of sync with food, energy leaking, stuff like that. So what I mean by this is eating loads of inflammatory foods like dairy and meat and drinking caffeine and alcohol and having lots of sugar and gluten. Those 6 things can really impact our bleed and our whole cycle, but you normally notice this at your bleed. So for a lot of us, any sort of out of syncness will miss our bleed, or it'll be sort of not healthy. So this phase is really, really important because it gives us a real insight to like what's going on in the rest of our life. So other things that might be impacting it, I'm not going to go into them on this video, I'm going to do a separate video, but as I've said, stress, not having boundaries, so not syncing with this, not being able to, not asking for help, not sleeping well, and obviously the not stopping, go. So for many of you, you might be watching this and you say, well, I can't slow down. Like my whole life is on all the time. I've got all these responsibilities. But this video is an invitation for you to start asking yourself, what would that look like if you were in sync with your body? And also arming yourself with the knowledge that if you are in sync with your body, if you were able to take more you time, for example, on your period and slow down, and you were able to choose when you did certain types of exercise to support your energetic phases of your body and exercising then so that you're not sluggish. If you did do these things, you would have less stress. You would have more honouring of yourself. You would probably be inclined to ask for more help and set more boundaries. So again, can you see how that works in like this positive feedback loop? That's definitely been my experience. by syncing with my cycle and tapping into my cycle when it is here, and then emulating a cycle, like creating a cycle when it's not, I've really noticed that this is something she talks about in the book as well, and I really resonate with this. It's given me the ability to notice when I'm out of sync. And I'm going to say that again. So it's given me the ability to notice when I'm out of sync and I'm not supporting myself and my body. And for so many of us, and this is my last point, the whole of our world is set up to keep us pushing, keep us going. And so we don't even know that we're out of sync until we really get a problem. So like for me, I didn't know I was out of sync until I lost my period. And then it's like you're at the end then. Yeah, like if you're not ovulating and you're not getting your period and you've got all these symptoms when you are bleeding, then that is like the sort of, you know, that's way down the line. Your body would have been sending you signals before that. But because we don't listen and we're not in sync with ourselves, we don't hear it until something really goes wrong, like burnout, right? They say that if we just listen to our body's whispers when we're feeling low and we need to rest more and we need to slow down, then we wouldn't have to listen to it screaming in illness. And I personally really feel that one, because that has definitely been my direct experience. So I really hope this video helps. It's really empowered me to follow a cycle. And I'm somebody who doesn't have a regular cycle, and I love this method. I love listening to my body more. And as I said, it's all about tuning in, like listening, like following my symptoms. I'll do another video on symptoms at each part of your cycle. So we can really go into depth with all the like cool stuff. But just like choosing to start to read about it and start to understand where you are and what best ways you can support yourself is like a brilliant gift you can give yourself. And please do share this with anyone you know, especially young women and, you know, anybody that you know that's stressed, or just all women really. We all need to know this. And I wish we would teach young women this. I wish I'd known this earlier. You know, I would have, you know, I probably wouldn't be in the pickle I'm in now with my womb and my ovaries not working and stuff. So this has really helped me be able to start healing myself, and I really hope that it leans some assistance to you too. So as usual, drop any comments down below, ask any questions. I'm here. Let's get these conversations going. Let's talk, let's share. I love you all being here. I love you all watching, and I just want to say thank you for being here, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Namaste.